The Darwin Business System has a workflow module that automates many of the tasks your users will do day to day. So today I want to show you how these tasks can help your PEO or your ASO or your payroll company perform and automate these HR and payroll driven tasks. So I'll run through a few examples live. So the things I'll be doing is I'll do several different things simultaneously to show you how the system can automate the processes behind the scenes. This includes onboarding an employee. I'm going to go ahead and terminate a different employee, so kind of the life cycle of the employee. I'm going to change some dates on some employee screens to show you date kicked off workflows. I'm going to manipulate a benefits date. I'm going to manipulate a license date to show you a license notification. I'm also going to run a payroll, so to show you automatic distribution of information for especially more paperless type clients of yours. So let's walk through these different things. So I'm going to do the tasks first. I'm just going to run through the tasks in just a minute or two and do these different things. So the first thing I mentioned was I'm going to onboard an employee. And so I'm actually going to act like I was your customer. So I'm your customer, this Plastic Incorporated customer. They're viewing their onboarding. They got a notification that Jake Luna has completed all the steps that they need to complete, that Jake completes for the pre-employment process. The customer has completed all of their steps in the process. And so your customer actually goes in electronically through the web and submits the onboarding information. There's a separate onboarding video where you can walk through all the onboarding steps that Jake and the customer went through, but this is the end of the process when they're actually submitting it to you. So that employee will appear automatically in the back office, and it's going to kick off the onboarding workflow, which we'll see in just a second. But in the meantime, I don't need to wait for anything. I can continue on doing other tasks. For example, I might have gotten a notification from a different customer, maybe via a phone call, saying they need to terminate an employee. So this customer, Davis Manufacturing, has decided that they need to terminate Robert Delaney. So I bring up Robert Delaney to the back office, and as a back office user, as opposed to doing it through the web this time, I'm going to go ahead and terminate this employee, mark them as COBRA eligible, and I'll have all that happen on the same date and save that information. So that'll kick off my termination workflow for a separate employee. So these things are running simultaneously behind the scenes. And then also in the meantime, I might do another common task. I might run a payroll. So I've got this customer set up for our automatic payroll. So this customer, it's time to run their payroll. I'm actually going to click the auto button here, which actually produces the check and the invoice in one click. Now what I've done is all these notifications we're about to see flowing through, the email notifications and tasks, I've copied myself and I've assigned them to me so we see all of them. Of course, in real world, all this information you're about to see is going to be distributed to your employees, clients, and internal users. So you won't be overwhelmed by emails and tasks and things like that. I'm just sending them all to myself so you'll see them in the presentation. So I've run a payroll, posted an invoice, it's all posted through the financials. It's going to distribute the information automatically to the clients and employees of Javier's Wine Shop. And we'll see all that in just a second too. So while those processes are running behind the scenes, I might be doing some miscellaneous tasks, or just to show you how date-driven workflows run, I'm going to manipulate a couple dates really quickly. So if I go into a customer, so I'll go into a different customer, Harry's Side Running Boards, and I'm going to go into an individual employee. Let's just choose Melanie Rockford right here. And I'm going to change one of her benefits effective dates just so we get that workflow to kick off again. So she's on a Blue Cross benefit plan that's all come from a master plan setup. It's filled out the dates for us, but I do have the ability to manipulate the date because I do have security privileges to do that. So I'm going to change her effective date to 8/27, and so that's the date of this recording. So once I actually save this, it's actually going to go ahead and kick off a workflow notifying Melanie she's become effective for benefits, eligible for benefits, can go through the open enrollment wizard, etc. So we'll see that notification being sent out. And then finally, one last thing, as extra services to your customers, maybe you give them notifications about licenses or renewals for reviews and trainings and things like that. Well, the system's intelligent enough to say, well, anytime there's an expiration date within the next 30 days, go ahead and send out a notification about that. So we'll set one up for the next week or so, and it'll go ahead and send this notification out to the client and employee saying there is a license about to expire in the system and you need to take care of that information in the system. So if I jump back over to my integrated Outlook, and the Outlook has all the data that's part of the system, I'll be able to see this information coming into the system itself. So we can see already a lot of it's come in already. So let's start talking about the different things that I've done. So one of the first things I did was I terminated an employee. So with any of these workflows, usually one of the things I recommend, if you're not just using our out-of-the-box workflow, is go ahead and bullet point out the different things that you want to have happen whenever there's something that happens in the system, such as a termination is a more complex workflow because it potentially touches many parts of your company. So I've set bullet points of the things that I want to have happen. I'm going to create a service case. I'm going to put something on my Outlook calendar. I'm going to ping an email back to the client, etc., etc. All the different things that I want to have happen. So whoever's in charge of terminations in your company has gotten a notification with links to see the information about this. So if somebody at the front desk took a phone call saying that we need to terminate Robert Delane and they might have nothing else to do with this, they go ahead and terminate the employee. This will notify somebody in your office that they need to process this information. We'll ping back information right back to the client. So the client calls up, says, I'm terminating this employee. They're going to get a confirmation email, get that confirmation from you guys that we received the notification of termination for Robert Delane. Please, we're processing right now. Let us know if something's wrong, and here's any paperwork that we might require from that particular customer. So we'll send that information off to the customer automatically. We even have the option of sending notifications out to the employee. So we're letting the employee know, hey, you've been terminated, you're eligible for COBRA, here's the information. We'll be sending a physical letter soon for you to go ahead and process those things. Now, like I said before, like I mentioned in that workflow, it also integrates with my calendar. So if we're doing something like exit interviews or something along those lines, maybe it's an HR service we provide for this customer, it might put on my HR rep's calendar, we need to contact Robert Delane by a certain time and date. And once again, if your HR rep gets this on their calendar, even though they didn't put it on the calendar, there'll be a link right to the record of information they need to know about. This was created by the system, this entire service case, and I can look up Robert Delane's information within a click or two without ever having to actually leave even my email system. I can see his phone number and his email address and anything else I need to see about Robert Delane I can actually get to within just a couple clicks from actually this calendar item that appeared on my calendar. So all that information is related to the termination. Any other custom steps you can actually add into that if you need to. Now, I also ran a payroll. So you'll notice, if you remember, that this customer I decided was a paperless customer. Now, for purposes of this demo, I wanted to show the checks and the information all at the same time. So in real world, you might have a couple days difference between them, depending if the customer requires to approve the payroll, etc. So you make sure you get paid before you pay out the checks. But in this case, I just did it all at the same time so we see the results. But this is the type of email that the customer can get. You can customize this however you want, but they get a nice quick summary of the invoiced information right on their email, which of course they can see through a mobile device. They can log into their own area to go view their invoice and reports, and there's a link back to the invoicing information if they have any questions. So if the customer replied to this email, your customer service rep could click this link and it would open up the invoicing information on screen within one click. Hopefully able to answer questions very quickly. Not only for things like invoicing, but also for things like paychecks. Carl got his paycheck information. Here's the total of his paycheck. He said that's okay to put in the email, nothing personally identifiable, but right away on his iPhone or Windows device or Android device, he'll be able to see what his summary paycheck information looks like. And of course, he can log into his personal area to go ahead and see this information. If he has questions and he happens to reply to the email, your customer service rep can open up check information, see how many hours they worked with simply a click without ever leaving their email system. So, especially for your paperless clients, it'll automatically distribute that information to your customers and employees. Other things I did. I also alerted Melanie about her benefits information. So Melanie was 30 days out from an open enrollment, or today her coverage starts, whatever type of notification you need to go out. And, I just did one employee here, but in real world with open enrollment, depending on the size of your company, whether you're a 50-person startup or you're a 10,000, 50,000 worksite PEO, this will automatically detect all those employees that have become eligible for open enrollment, for anything date driven, and send notifications out to them. Give them a little bit of information in an email, keep it simple to stay HIPAA compliant, and then of course they can log into their own personal portal area to go through the open enrollment wizard or whatever else you want them to do. Give them any instructions. So make sure any of those things will automatically be sent out. Remember, I'm copying myself on all these emails. If it was 10,000 emails, of course you wouldn't have 10,000 emails in your inbox. And then finally, as extra services, other things you can add to your customer kind of portfolio of services without adding extra work for your internal staff, I can send out alerts based upon other things. For example, this customer, Harryside Running Boards, we set the service, all of these people have certain licenses. Whenever a license is within 30 days of expiring, let me know. Whether it's an I-9 renewal, whether it's licensure for things like this, or home inspector licenses, whatever type of license it might be, including trainings, disciplinary actions, reviews, those types of things too. But we're sending out an alert there's a license expiring the next 30 days. It's going to the employee and the client. A little bit of information about it right there. So we get that information out to your customers. Okay, and then finally, the first thing I did is kind of the last thing that kind of processed here is the onboarding for that Jake Luna employee. So the client to approve the employee, I've set my back office to auto approve employees from this particular client. You'll be able to decide what level of approval process you want internally. But this employee is set up in my back office ready for payroll at this point. But what this is doing is this is sending the confirmation back to the customer. So if you have a secondary approval process, once you've completed that approval process, it will ping back to the customer saying Jake Luna is available for you to process. You can sign into your self-service area and do anything else you need to do with Jake Luna, pay Jake Luna, whatever your customer needs to do. If there's any secondary alerts, such as we have a retro deduction alert, meaning deduction started in the past and we need to capture retro deduction dollars, we get to review that information. And maybe most importantly, we're going to get a timed email out to the employee. Now, just like kind of I did with payroll and invoicing, I went ahead and sent this email out to the employee right away so we could see it. But the concept here is maybe they're not eligible for 401k or benefits for a month or for the first day, to the first day after the next quarter, depending upon how your waiting periods are set up. When that date hits, Jake will automatically be sent a notification, a secondary notification. Welcome to the company. Log into your personal area to go ahead and go through the open enrollment wizard, and here are the instructions on how to go through new hire enrollment for any benefit plans you might be eligible for. And of course, all this communication is being tracked against the records. So Jake Luna was hired by the client, the information was put in, and we can see every bit of information, every communication we've ever had with Jake Luna and about Jake Luna. So the system maintains all those things. So in summary, basically I just did 4 or 5 different typical types of HR tasks, and I've let the system automate the distribution of information and making sure that we stay organized and tracking everything we're doing without adding more work to your staff. Let the system do as much automation as possible. Thank you.